Hello and welcome to some ornithology on the edge. So what we have is the QSP Hawk. And in this particular case, I suppose a blue hawk, although there are other colors of hawk, maybe other species of hawk, if that's the right term as well. So this QSP, the first time that I've had this brand on the channel, and not a brand that I'm very familiar with. So let's just get that at a little bit of an angle so you can see the QSP logo there with a little bit of flame coming off that. So I had to do a little bit of looking up to find out about the brand, and quite a lot of knives available, and QSP, very, very cryptic. I had to go and look up to see what that means, and that stands for quality, service, and price. So as simple as that. And I think probably pretty appropriate. Well, I don't know about the service part of it, but quality seems to be up there, and the price certainly is there. So, guys, this an in-house design, so I'm not going to be discussing any designers. So we're going to launch straight into materials, dimension, and weight, and then design and attributes of this knife. Right, let's get cracking. So we've got a blade steel of Sandvik 14C28N, and a nice blade steel for a budget knife. Scales, we've got blue micarta, liner, clip, screws, the standoffs, that's all stainless steel. And the pivot assembly makes use of ceramic ball bearings, so a nice surprise there on a budget knife as well. Dimensions and weight, right, so we've got a blade length of 82 millimeters, and that's 8.23 inches. Blade thickness of 2.9 millimeters, and that's 0.11 inches, handle thickness of 13.9 millimeters, and that is 0.54 inches. Closed length of the knife is 105 millimeters, and that's 4.13 inches. And then overall length of the knife is 187 millimeters, and that's 7.35 inches. Right, weight, and as I always do, I will check the stated weights. So I've got stated weights from QSP. We'll check that on my scale. Let's get this on, and what are we on? We're on grams. Let's see what we get here. 100 and let it settle. What are we gonna finalize? 103. What do you prefer, 103 or 102? Oh yeah, 103. So they had 101 grams QSP. That was their stated weight. So I get slightly heavier, and let's see what that looks like in ounces. I get 3.6. They get 3.56. So my scale goes to 1 decimal point. So it would round that up. So yeah, close enough. Let's get the knife open and start speaking a little bit about it. So quite a classically styled knife, sort of balanced proportions. Well, certainly to my anyway. So we've got to use the same word, classically styled drop point blade. And then the finish on this blade they describe as two-tone, and you kind of have to look close to see that two-tone. So it is a satin finish, but the satin finish on the main grind, and that is a flat grind by the way, is slightly more glossy, slightly more polished than the finish that is on the ricasso and the flat of the blade. And then the grind lines on the main grind sort of run vertically, and then the lines on that ricasso and the flats run longitudinally. Edge of the blade, very, very neat and very, very sharp out of the box. Now, looking at the blade, the only little bit of a flaw that I can see on the blade, and I'm not sure if I'm going to pick this up on camera, try to get it at that angle and just get the light to reflect on it, but there's some slight sort of waves that run longitudinally on the blade, just sort of around that area, and I hope the camera is going to pick this up, and that actually on both sides of the blade as well. Besides that, the rest of the fit and finish and quality on this knife really is very, very, very good. So behind that edge, we've got a big sharpening choil, and that can act as a front finger choil, and I'll show you that when I get my hands around the knife. The spine of the blade squared off, but a very neat beveled edge running along that spine as well. And then you can see the spine raises slightly around the thumb tabs, thumb studs, and then on the handle side of that we've got a little bit of jimping, so that forms a little bit of a ramp, and that's a very nice landing spot for your thumb. Again, I'll show you that when I get my hands around the knife. Having a look at those little thumb studs as well, and again, one has to consider that this is a budget knife. It really is sort of one of those entry price points, but the little extra attention to detail and the little bit of extra effort that has been put into those thumb studs, you can see the machining and shaping around that. And it is very beautifully, besides the nice shape, it is very beautifully finished off as well. Right, let's have a look. What next? At the flipper. So the flipper, in proportion to the size of the rest of the knife, quite a low profile flipper, but jimping all the way around that. And I found that quite interesting, that it's actually got jimping on top of the flipper. And initially that puzzled me, but again, when I get the knife in my hands, I'm going to show you how that actually does make quite a lot of sense. Right, let's get the knife open. I mentioned the fact that it is sort of classically styled, and you can see the handle of the knife quite sort of squared off, almost rectangular. The spine of the handle is almost flat, dead straight, and a little bit of an angled cut around the back of that handle, gently curved around the area that your fingers go, and then you can see a little bit of shaping on that scale also where your fingers wrap around, and that both on the show side and on the lock side. And again, I'll show you how that works when I get my hands around the knife. The pivot cap, nicely finished off with that little triangle, and I'm assuming that this is a little design element, sort of one of the little distinguishing design pieces on QSP knives, because I've seen a few of the other designs and a few of the others that were at Blades and Triggers, and this is another knife that comes from them, that have that same pivot cap. So, we've got the logo there, but this is obviously something that they do on their knives, and another sort of distinguishing characteristic of QSP knives. The pivot cap on the other side is one of those wide-rimmed torque screws with circular machining, so when light catches that does look very, very attractive. Micarta scales, and it really does look good in this blue, and I think this is the first blue micarta that I've had in my hands, and wow, it really does look good. You get those slightly different tones of blue, and I think it really does work well with micarta. It almost has sort of a denim look to it, quite smoothly finished off, a very light texturing to that, and then that rounded, so the overall scale has been rounded if you look at it end on, but the edges of that scale also very, very nicely rounded. And then you can see the liner sits slightly proud of that scale, and that does look good, especially in this blue once again. So you've got this blue scale, and then that stainless steel that has been highly polished, just sort of forming a border around the micarta scale, and I think that does look very attractive. Try to get it to focus. Why am I not focusing? There we go. You can see it just sort of bordering the micarta. In hand, with all that rounding, means that it is very comfortable, no hot spots, and then you can sort of see the size of the knife there. So my medium-sized hands, I wear a large glove, you can see I very, very comfortably fit, and I very comfortably fit into that general area of the handle. And then there is still that little squared off piece at the back spare. So bigger hands, slightly bigger hands, you're still going to get comfortably onto this handle, and then the very big paws, your little finger is probably going to drop off the back. And this is where I want to now speak about that jimped area. So first of all, what it looks like if you choke up on the blade, so plenty of space on the handle, and that relatively comfortable. It isn't the biggest front finger choil, but in both of those grips, your thumb falls very naturally onto that little jimped ramp. So that all feels very, very good in hand. But now that extra piece of jimping that's on the top of the flipper, and this is where it really does make sense, because if you choke up on the blade, you can actually get your finger onto the top of that flipper and you get good purchase there. Your finger actually feels very comfortable because it is slightly flattened and you've got that jimped area, so you get a bit of purchase there. That actually really does feel good, and that's another way of choking up on the blade. So it actually, initially, like I say, it puzzled me, but that actually does make a lot of sense. Right, what else? Let's have a look at that pocket clip. So, pocket clip, we've got tip up. It is not reversible, so it is right hand only, but it is incredibly deep. So it's one of those wraparound pocket clips, but you can see how high that is mounted. It is actually sitting a little proud of the back of the handle. So that in your pocket, you're going to see the pocket clip, obviously, but the rest of the knife is going to be really well hidden inside your pocket. Right, liner. So we've got the standard liner lock, nothing out of the ordinary there. Those liners are highly polished. I mentioned that just now, but highly polished inside as well. And no attempts to mill those liners, no attempts to make the knife any lighter than it is. Standoffs, nice little bit of extra detail. Again, considering that this is a budget knife, we've got this sort of pulley-shaped standoffs as well, 2 of those, and those look very good as well. Anything else that I need to cover off on the knife? I think I've pretty much covered off everything. I need to speak about the action, and this, again, I've got to stop myself and remind myself that this is a budget knife, because the action is brilliant. And you will have seen the fact that it has got the thumb studs and the fact that you've got a flipper, so many ways to open the knife. So you can get hold of that flipper, and that works very well, or you can get hold of the thumb tabs, the thumb studs, and that flies out and works very well as well. And then you can get the knife in your hand like that, and you can do a great spidey flick on the knife as well. So a little bit of a fidget toy, and then on top of that, on those ceramic ball bearings, it's quite drop shuddy as well. And moving that blade slowly open and close, it is one of those that is actually buttery smooth. And let's check the detent. Good detent on it as well. You can see it suck the blade in there. So all those things considered, and you consider the price point, this really is a very, very good proposition. It is a very, very compelling offer, this knife. And again, I'm going to say it, it really, to my eye, really does look good in that blue micarta. So let me just stop here and do 2 things. First of all, give my thanks to Blades and Triggers. I mentioned briefly just now. Once again, a knife that does come from Blades and Triggers. I really do appreciate their ongoing support of the channel. So check this out and other brands of knives and other tactical goodies out at Blades and Triggers, their website BNT online, or in one of their stores. Now, I've just got to mention something actually before I go into the versions of this knife that I've mentioned already that it's my first exposure to the brand, and they had another knife at Blades and Triggers, and well, can I do I need to say it? So I saw this, got this in my hand, and this is a brass handle, and it is actually brass, so this knife has a nice heft to it. Also QSP, this one in D2 blade steel, but got this in my hand, and well, it is now mine. So I will do a review on this knife as well. This is the QSP Penguin in that case, but I will do a review on that. But just to show you that I have put my money where my mouth is. I am quite impressed with these knives, and I've actually bought one. So there it is. There's another little thing that I want to show you, and I thought this was a very, very classy touch. So in the box, you get this little card. And yeah, okay, so the language isn't, the English isn't perfect, but again, a little classy touch. Every QSP knife is guaranteed against defects, so it's so on and so on. So it speaks about the limited lifetime warranty, but I just thought this is where the class comes in. So QSP, greetings. Thank you for choosing QSP knife. We hope you enjoy it. Here are some specifications about your knife. And then a little diagram of the knife and then the dimensions and so on, and the other options that it's available in. So they actually show you there. Blade options, you can get this knife in Damascus, in CPM S35VN, slightly more expensive, or this version, the Sandvik 14C28N, and then the handle options. So you get it in carbon fiber, in what they describe as Vera wood, or in micarta, the one that I've got here. And I thought that is just such a neat little touch, and the camera might not pick this up, but the little card that it's printed on is a nice quality, sort of a silvery card. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that because I thought that was I really did like that. So there I've spoken a little bit about the other options, the fact that you do get it in a Damascus blade, you get it in two different types of carbon fiber, so sort of standard in inverted commas carbon fiber, and then you get it in a shredded carbon fiber, then the wood, and then I mentioned the micarta. You get it in a number of different colors of micarta, and then you get a version with an S35VN blade steel as well. Right, and I think now what that leaves me to do before summarizing is to do some size comparison. So I will go through my normal knives, and I think it's knives that most people will be familiar with, especially those who like knives. The first one is the Spyderco PM3, the smaller version, give you some scale there, and then the Spyderco Manix 2, an altogether bigger knife, but just for scale there as well. And I may as well, while this is still on my desk, it is the Medford Slim Midi. Right, so very, very similarly sized knives, the Midi and the Slim Midi and the Hawk. And then this knife that I always do say it, and I'll say it again, I use because it has been out for so long, and you certainly should be familiar with that knife if you like knives. That is the Benchmade Mini Barrage. Give you some scale on that as well. Right, guys, and I think that is pretty much that. I think I have gone through everything that I wanted to on the knife, but all in all, I'm very impressed. On this specific knife, we've got that little bit of a wave issue. It's not going to affect the performance of the knife in any way, shape, or form. I am going to go and have a look at a few other examples of the Hawk and see if that's maybe something on those blades as well, because it certainly isn't the case on this other knife, on this on the Penguin. There's no issues like that, and this it is a little bit dirty and full of fingerprints, but the grind on this, I did mention the fact that it's D2, I think, but the grind and finish on this blade, on the Penguin, also the QSP, is really beautiful. So a really nice knife, and I suppose it's one of those knives, the best way I can describe it is pleasant. Everything about the knife is sort of right for a basic knife, and it kind of reminds me in that sense of the Civivi Elementum. It is this basic knife that sort of does it all. It's sort of the perfect EDC size, maybe a little bit larger, but you know, it's a practical size, nicely finished, or feels good, great action. Yeah, it's that kind of knife. It's a knife very similar to the Civivi Elementum, and I don't mean in sort of styling. I mean more in terms of style, in terms of end use, the purpose for the end use. So check it out, QSP. I'm pretty much impressed, especially when you consider the price of these knives. It really is very good value for money, and very attractive to me, especially in the blue micarta. Right, guys, and I think that is just about it. In fact, I think that is it. All that's really left for me to do is to thank you for joining me. I always really do appreciate it when you do, and would equally appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can be notified every time I release a new video. And guys, also, if you did enjoy this video, please do give it a like. It does help with the algorithms. And other than that, you go well, and God bless.